Hello and welcome back to Saturday.
Big Saturday.
Yeah, big Saturday. E1 2022.
Yeah. We had found out like the night before. The military council basically has a choice of different battles.
Yes.
They then post them on the toilet doors to let everyone know who's fighting on what day. Navarre were fighting on the Saturday.
Yeah.
My preferred day, I think, for taking to the field as my character.
Yeah.
And then we would monster on the Sunday.
Definitely. 100%.
Did you get to kind of like go and party in the evening, have a bit of victory, then Sundays like really cash because you're like, oh sweet, I get to go on monster and it's less worrying, you know?
Yeah, I like the way it pans out because you finish on the Saturday and there's still a lot of game left. And you get to live off the highs and lows.
Oh, dude, but dying on a Saturday would suck.
It would
real
suck,
hard.
Yeah. But
real
it ups
hard.
the adrenaline, right?
Yeah, and there's been some like rule changes as well. So it used to be that heavy armor kind of had to be heavy armor, and they've changed the rules now. So polyplates allowed, aluminium chain is allowed.
If it is what it looks like.
It is what it looks like.
Which I love as a rule change.
Big fan. It makes accessibility way better, right? Like if your knees are fucked, but you want to wear heavy armor,
it makes things way more affordable.
Oh man, way more affordable. A lot more expressive with the polyplate, right?
You can do. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think there can be, and this is the same for anything, by the way. Any medium. I think leather armor can look shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, listen to me, Ian. Awful. Like, yeah, there's what I'm talking about taste, though, right?
Yeah.
But man, there are like some polyplate makers that are just mind fucking blowing, right?
Oh yeah, and it's like one of those things that's been a real shame that like people who have this really cool image ultimately of what they want to create, right? Again, the fantasy of what they want to be, and polyplate lets you do that in ways that is just way easier.
However, the flip side of this, me crying in mage armor.
Yeah.
Okay, so there has become a significantly less amount of targets on the battlefield that are affected by cleave, impale from an arrow, or impale generally, right? Yeah. There's a bunch of different calls that are now buku effective against our squishy mages.
Yeah, I guess what it's done is it's narrowed the range of targets.
The feeding pool, right?
I will tell you, being an archer, it's not actually quite like that.
I think
that was your perspective going in.
Me having cleave when I was monstering, really love those arms and legs. Really
you find the joints as well, actually.
I think you also, but if you're fighting, I shouldn't even encourage this. You're looking for those people.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I have 4 cleaves to use. Okay,
yeah.
If I'm just face to face with a bunch of chonky iron lads, right? Like I can't use the thing I have to, so I have to hold on to it.
Yeah.
But as soon as someone comes along with a little leggy that's not coated in armor, I'm like, ooh, delicious.
Yeah, and what's really good, I mean, this is an experience I had throughout the whole, like, both battles. Like, all the monsters were just so good at, like, taking the hits.
Mate, I love, like, the whole experience of the battles. Yeah, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
So, we're fighting the Jotun. Another personal preference thing, I think Jotun are the dullest of all the nations that we have to go and fight. And we've fought them an awful lot.
Yeah, I think we're maybe just a bit done at playing the Jotun. But, like, I mean, we still have fun, right? Like,
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude, let me not detract from the sensation of... when we marched out in column, and it was like, we were so big that there was a delay on the calls from the front of the line to the back of the line. So any of you physics nerds will probably like know how far that is. But really cool to have this delay. And then us all singing was this enormous fucking...
Navarre going to war.
Mate, it's so cool.
And all the
People
different nations
stopped,
are doing their equivalent of that, right?
Kids were waving. It's like the pride of leaving with our nation was awesome.
Well, and this was the other thing, like Fire, who's played by Good Dave, he's like the battle commander of the Entwined Paths, essentially. He's the person who takes the field and leads the force. And we had a whole bunch of different people join us. And the Navarchers joined in with like the formation as well. So we had the whole Navarchers block. We were leading a lot of people out on the field. It was like 50 people, which is a sizable chunk of people on the scale of Empire to lead out. And it's like, it was awesome.
So we had Dawn, High Guard, Farushka.
Yeah.
Who else was there? Was that it? Eurozen. No, Eurozen were the other.
Euro...
No, Eurozen were the other battle.
They were the other battle.
Anyway,
yes, they were. Yeah.
The idea was we were going to go clear up the big field.
Yeah.
Then we're going to go through a gate into the woods.
Yeah.
Find a. There were two things that people need to find.
Yeah, there's like a fort. And actually, this is one of the things. Kaylee, who's like the leader of the Navarches, couldn't go on the battle, but had like heard all of the sort of military council stuff. So the Navarches were like had super good intel basically on like how the battle would go, where the different forces would move, and what the plan was. Mm-hmm. We were probably like the best informed Navarra unit. Essentially, it was so good. Did an amazing job, but it was like essentially the whole battle hinged on getting through this gate, right? And we had to sort of essentially clear the field, take the field, hold the field, and then get through this gate. And it's just quite difficult to basically clear through a very strong, determined defense in a choke point.
The start of the battle was really, really fun. We did a whole bunch of like
we were so good at the beginning
and like just wrecking little pockets here and there and having all the fun that is. Then basically the whole army came round to where the gate was and basically set up a perimeter around the gate while different forces tried to make their way through. It got pretty scary at times. I was on the outside. Like we were... So I got downed by...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I was fighting. It was in the field area after we made this perimeter. And basically, I think they were from Dawn, had charged out like two of them and just got like ruffle stomped by like a group of orcs.
Dawnish glory.
And they're like...
It'll get you killed.
And most people are like, man, like, sucks to be them, right?
Yeah.
They made a decision. That was a bad one. Like, we can't go and get them now. But then there was a little bit of manoeuvring, and the orcs got split off into two different directions, right?
Yeah.
And this like weird little pocket formed in the middle. And I looked at like Paige and Bung, and we're like, I think like that we could
get them out.
We could get them out, right?
Nice.
Like, so I charged in there, and then oh man, we got caught out so bad. I got cleaved, so I went down. Paige got down somehow. I don't know how she got downed, but there we are with the noble, and he's like, "Thanks for coming to get me," or whatever. And I'm just like straight in my pocket, right? Go for the old potion. I've got the limb restoring one.
Yeah.
Boom. Chuck the potion down, do my RP effect, and I jack in the box and just fucking run for the fucking thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, potions are the best, by the way. Holy shit, like that would have been my ass.
Well, because you can do the whole thing of like essentially you can kind of play possum to a certain extent where like you've been hit and you go down. You have to answer truthfully if people ask you if you've got hits.
The
or
line
if
had literally. What's cool was the line had literally just moved over me and was still being kind of engaged.
Yeah.
So then I popped it, jumped back up again, and then I think. We went back to the lines, and then we're looking at Paige, who's like dying out there. Okay,
yeah.
And then I was like, kind of moved around a bit more. Time went by, but then it was like some Dawnish showed up, and they were just like, "Let's fucking go!" And it was just like, "Yeah, let's fucking go." So then we charged out there, and Dawn helped us rescue.
Being part of
Paige.
a Dawnish charge is awesome.
I fucking love fighting with Dawn. Like they're really fun. They really get stuck in. Do you know what I mean? So,
but it instigates action, right? Whether it goes poorly or well, it instigates action and interest on the field, right? Because they just charge in and they do like something happens, a kinetic effect occurs, right?
Yeah.
That's what Dawn was.
I think like I went to the gate and fought in there. I think one of the big problems with that sort of engagement, just with the amount of numbers and the amount of people wearing helmets and orc masks and everything that goes with it, a lot of calls were just not being taken. And I don't think this is kind of like...
Yeah, I heard on both sides, actually. It was like, it's a very loud environment is what I think it is.
That's what I think. I think most people, when I say most people, I mean the vast majority, the tiny amount of people that don't do this, but most people want to play the game exactly how it is. I had some really good experiences on the Sunday battle.
Amazing experiences, people.
We'll talk about Sunday when we get to it. But I was very much aware of that. The referees were made aware and kind of went in. But I think there was an awful lot of people that kind of like lost their steam at that stage, right?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of gone in there and done their thing. But so we didn't achieve the objective. But really fucking fun. Yeah. We all survived.
I had a great time being in the archery group, right? I mean,
you got some crazy good shots.
Well, good and bad, but we'll get to that. I mean, so my experience of going to the battle was we're sort of stationed up all outside. The Navarches are called kind of in a group. I'm kind of Sparrow's in command. I'm kind of second in command of the group as we're heading out. We've got a reasonable number of people, and I'm kind of we're getting them to buddy up, talk to them about basic sort of strategy and tactics and stuff, and then I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but Yelena Silverfinch. She sings this kind of song, which is that she's written for the Navarches. It was like the first song she'd ever performed at Songs and Stories, and she sort of runs with the Navarches a lot. And it's like this song called "Fly Free, Fly True," and she like sang that like while we were all prepping just to go through the gate of the battle. Right, it was so cool. Right, it was like an awesome thing. And then at the same time, you had like Good Dave, and I was like, to fire like Burn Bright and all this kind of stuff, and as to keys and stuff, I'm calling over to him. It was really cool just to get like hyped for the battle and go through as a group. And I was like in my full fucking I'd made all this crazy armor and stuff at this point that I'd been working on, and I was like, I felt like I was like I was going in as like a captain, like an experienced person taking the field, right? Because I don't know anything really, like I'm useless really. But like I felt like
pretty good shot with the bow.
I'm all right, but you know what I mean. Like I felt like I've existed in this world for a while. Like my character's not dead. I'm going, and all this kind of stuff. Yes, let's fucking do this. And we went through as a group, and it was so good to operate as the Navarches working with the Entwined Paths and sort of operating along that. And we were screening along the line. We kind of lost like cohesion at one point later on where we were doing the massive encirclement thing. But I remember there was a bit where I was fighting near you. And they, like the short orc kind of unit trying to charged in. I did this shot like past you to like take someone down as they were like running in. And you were like, you could turn around and I was like, nice shot. And I was like, yeah, like Gallup, like it was like appreciated what I did. And it was like, it was really, really cool. And then throughout the whole battle, it was like, we had this nice little buddy system going of the different Navarches working together. Because there's a bunch of targets that are like harder for us to hit now because of the rules changes. But what it does mean if we have a buddy system is we can actually operate as the group that will go and pick people up and carry them out. Because if we can't make a shot, we can get a person because we're two people. So like we're able to obviously threaten in a way that other forces aren't. So we're able to often get in, extract those people on the front line, pull them back to the healer block. I am a healer, so I can heal people anyway. It worked really well, and we were kind of screening up and down the whole back line. There was a whole bunch of like essentially Navarches acting as like an extraction unit and as a fire support unit. I think it worked really, really well, and it was just cool. Just I kind of grouped in with different archers at different points and acted in that kind of a sergeant, I guess, kind of role, right, where I was kind of directing things, trying to kind of keep things organised, while Sparrow's working with fire to do the grand battle plan kind of stuff. It felt awesome.
Yeah, I thought Navarre fought really well. I felt like for our part in it, we did our job really, really well, right? Like
I think everyone did great. I think that the reality is the monsters do really well sometimes, right? Yeah. And the players, there's an equally talented number of people on the other side, and you've got to get through a small choke point, and they stop you, and that's just what happens.
Yeah, I think it's more like, again, it's like a taste thing. But I would have loved a bit more of a dynamic thing. Just to kind of get out there, get into the woods, experience that.
It must be so hard in a way. I mean, it's a bit like, in any role-playing system, right? Like, or anything. Like, when you're designing how a encounter is going to go, right? And if you're thinking about the pacing of that encounter, you're essentially doing that, but you're not dealing with, like, a couple of D&D characters. You're dealing with, like, hundreds of people and all the variables that entails. Yeah. And you're just saying, like, are they going to break through this choke point? Is that part of the story we're trying to tell?
Oh, no, totally.
Get through? It's it's very challenging.
Basically, what I'm saying is it's from a personal experience thing rather than a game design thing, right?
Yeah.
It's this certainly isn't like. I mean, fuck, I have literally no idea the process when it comes to writing a battle or how they implement it, right?
And they do a phenomenal job.
I'm saying as a player, it would have been fucking cool running around in the fucking forest and having a really, really good time. Like, there's a difference, right?
Yeah, I know, I totally. Yeah, I think it's just. I mean, I get this has happened probably a bunch of times, and you probably don't even realise when you're monstering, like when you are winning, like, or vice versa when you're the other way around. Like, you don't always understand what the, like, maybe to the other team, like, or the other side, whatever the thing was, they might be like, that was really that battle was too difficult for us to win, or we couldn't do this.
Oh no! I'm not saying that at all either. Like no, like literally, that's literally what I'm saying.
No,
it's more like it's. I'm just enjoying the. I didn't get to go around and run in the woods this time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
And it's like I like those kind of chaotic corridor fights that you end up getting.
It's almost like a taste of the different type of action movie you like, right?
Yeah,
and one's like
because there was a lot of line fighting in this. That's why I enjoyed the start of the battle so much, because there was a lot more dynamic maneuvering and kind of hitting and feinting and all that, the stuff that I really enjoy about battles. But yeah, it's a personal preference thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I did get a traumatic wound.
I saw this, so we write up a list before these things begin, like insight into the podcast, but basically I saw this was one of the things that you got a traumatic wound on the list, and I was immediately
it's my first one.
Wow, it's literally your first one.
Yeah, I think
so. Oh well, welcome to the. You're like a late starter.
I know.
I feel like two or three at this point.
I've been hit by lots of terrible.
You talk
things.
a lot of shit to me
about
how I don't risk battles. I've had 3 traumatic wounds, motherfucker.
When I was Ifan, I fought those. You know the bug men. With the big suits.
I got a traumatic wound off one of those. Yeah, good.
I got smacked by them. Nobody got smacked by them. Didn't get a fucking traumatic wound. I was flying all over the fucking place. Do you know what I mean? Like, not a referee didn't bat an eyelid at me. Oh man, no. Today, on this battle, was like, I think I got, what happened to me? Oh, that was the cleave.
Yeah.
That was the cleave.
Yeah.
And they were like, and then... So then they gave me the thing, and then it was about my arm, not my leg. So... Right. But the thing was, I had to do they were like, you have overused your hand. And I was like, this is when I got back to the fucking, the hospital, by the way, because I got out of the field. They were like, you better get this looked at when you get back, I think.
Yeah.
They were like, oh yeah, you've, I should say, the experience of going to the hospital is awesome. Yeah. So I'm walking, and how organised they are now is terrifying.
Yes.
I come through the gate, I'm hollering, I'm like coming towards the hospital tent. They're in lines with hospital beds, at least 2 per bed, it looks like. And then there were 3 people where I was. I get put down. Paige is on the far side being dealt with, with her critical wound. And I'm like, and it's like, it was so, like, I don't know, MASH or so. It was just so good.
It's great. The hospital game.
And it was like, there was a lead guy with like a couple of assistants, and they were like, talking about it, and like, they were all so in it and doing it, and I was trying to do my best to be a good patient. I did put a couple of jokes in, like when they said like, "Oh, you've been overusing your hand." I was just like, "Yeah, my mum warned me about this," and then they had to like take bits out of my hand and then do a bunch of other treatment to it, and then it was kind of like I was playing that up, and then basically it was a really nice experience. And then they were like, "Whatever you do, like don't use your hand for at least like an hour," and I'm like, well, there goes my usual post-battle ritual. Do you know what I mean? Like, God. Yeah, always got to go for the lowest.
The lowest blows.
Absolute lowest. It's all class being me. Do you know what I mean? All class. You're welcome, world.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, it was. I really loved getting back on the field. I am a sloppy bitch though, and need to do much more exercise. Obviously, medical stuff has been annoying. COVID came at just the wrong time. But man, I need to get hungry for exercise again and get out there and basically just for the LARP.
Like, I think so. I mean, that's actually LARP is really good for that, especially like the LARP battles. It does make you want to aspire to be. I'm
very target based motivation to do stuff. So I think this is very, very good. But hey, we'll see what happens with that. I mean,
I mean that's the thing. Yeah.
Right. So, Ambassador de Jarm.
Yes.
Lovely man. I won't really go into who he is. I haven't talked to him about this, so I don't know whether he wants to be mentioned or not. We talked. Basically, he had kind of like been going through the long dark. It's been 2 years, and was like, well, basically, I want to do some other things. So he was like, hey, well, I'm probably going to resign at this event. And I was like, sweet. Obviously, I got to go to the political meeting on the Friday and had this big old chinwag. So I was like brimming with all the current like. I was one of the most well-informed people about the Foreign Service running around because of how I interacted with
You've
people.
been working hard on it as well, and you've got the benefit of you know people now, so you've got
At
people you
least
can talk
I
to as well,
understood-
right?
Yeah, I understood what people were talking about,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't like
Yeah.
I was completely lost in everything, right?
Yeah.
So that was good. But basically, the ambassador got elected to the Senate, and therefore you can't hold two seats. So therefore, had to immediately resign because you can't hold two. Now, the way the elections work, is you have to elect a new ambassador, you have to put a motion in.
Yeah.
Now, all the senators only have a limited number of motions. I think they only have one, maybe.
I heard about that. This wasn't a part of the game I realised until after I heard about what happened. It's big.
It's really, really big. It's
Yeah.
like a really interesting thing. So, basically, our friend Travid, there was a couple of elections at the for senators in Navarre because one player had stepped down because they were doing IOC stuff.
Yeah.
And then there was an election for one of the territories, so there were two elections. People that we like won both, which is really fucking cool.
And I was like proxy basically for Travid as well going into this, which was again something randomly that had occurred to my character that was like, yeah, I think Talis probably would do that, but in quite a kind of I was almost like I want to be a Travid almost stylist, right? like not actually really. Like it was quite fun. We didn't get to roleplay that much just because the event was actually really packed with a whole bunch of stuff. So this is the thing. There's a whole bunch of things I didn't get to do that I really wanted to do more of, and that was one of them. Was like spend more time with Travid. But yeah, he had to be elected for this position essentially, and then he got it, and that obviously enabled him to work with you.
When I heard that there was a possibility if no one put a motion in on Saturday, that there would be no election to the ambassador to Jarm, and therefore, during all of the downtime between E1 and E2, there would be no correspondence. No, more than that. Zero contact with Jarm.
Right, yeah. At the moment we're in.
Yes. It's like suddenly we drop diplomatic relationships with them for an entire season. Like
after everything that's happened.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, like what?
Yeah.
I felt like the only sane man
person,
in the asylum. Like, are you all mad? Don't you see? Don't you see what's going to happen?
I think, though, what's been really cool, again, about your journey through all of this is, like Gellert really does feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, bear in mind, this is a fictional fictional place.
I've been
having diplomatic relationships with another fictional place, but you can see through all that dynamic that there's like a reactionary force which must occur at a certain point.
I like it because it's like Gellert has been sailing off to the principalities of Jarm for a while now.
Yeah.
Okay, like I trade there all the time. It's not very efficient, but like I want to do it because it's like part of my character's game, right? and to continue to do this despite the embargoes, despite all this stuff, despite how nobody cares about Jarm apart from me, right? Like nobody gives a fuck about it. They're not part of the Liberty Pact. They still have fucking slavery. They're gonna go to war with the Commonwealth to the south, who are like everyone loves the Commonwealth, you know, because they're so nice and they're like really egalitarian and like really nice or whatever. and then it's like. And then it's like, nasty little Jarm. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, come on, like Jarm aren't. Poor Jarm. They don't know. You know what I mean? They don't have the way. They're like us, even like not that long ago with their slavery. You know what I mean? Like we need to try and carrot, not stick.
Yeah.
Carrot. You know? Come on now.
I think it's also fascinating because there's that whole dynamic about how do you handle those type of two-nation political sort of aspects, but and then also the wider context of the world and the fact that we're sleepwalking into World War One.
By the way,
which is
all of this is very much my opinion.
Yes, this is very much a Gellert.
This is definitely like not like I'm sure if you're listening to this and you rolled the foreign game, you're like, this guy is a fucking moron. He has
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, you're like a conspiracy theorist of like
aliens,
you know,
right?
yeah.
It's kind of like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This has been stable for 1,000 years. Like,
it's fine. Yeah.
But these
alliances are iron tight.
Yeah, this is from my point of view, and there's more in-game stuff, by the way, that I'm not going into now, and I actually won't go into now because I think there's some really cool stuff, and I don't want to give it all away.
Yeah. You should discover a lot of it as well.
There's loads of stuff. Also, bear in mind, like a lot of the, I literally have intelligence.
Yeah.
That is like, or I've had access to intelligence that is like literally nobody really gets to see.
Yeah.
Like no one's going, oh fucking hell, what's going on with Axos this weekend? I really must find out what's going on. I suppose some people must, but definitely not Jean. No one's like, oh fucking tell me more about Jean. So basically I went around and I sold maps. And also tried.
But we should finish that actually because we missed it. Like because you needed someone to put a motion forward for you.
Yeah. So the timing's a little off for this, but I'll say this now. But Travid, he's been working hard to become a senator for a really long time.
Right? You got to think like this is a player as well as a character.
Yeah.
Right. Who has really worked for a very long time.
He is or does really facilitate other people's game around him and like really tries hard to make sure that everyone's kind of like new players, people that are aspiration towards something are really being helped out and doing it. So when he got elected,
I mean just
genuinely chuffed for the chap.
I mean, amazing achievement, all the work that's gone into it.
Having said that, Ian, that doesn't stop me from ranting and raving at him at a campsite when he's trying to rest and have a bit of a timeout moment.
Yeah.
I come over and I'm just like, it's got to happen. Someone's got to put a fucking motion in tonight. Otherwise, like...
Yeah. This is his first motion.
Yeah, like, he's literally just been elected, right? Like, and I'm there just fucking...
Bang, 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 knocking on the door.
Exactly, like, listen.
You're in like a wet trench coat at the door.
We've talked for a long time about a lot of things, and now you're senator. Like, that's it. So I was like, no one gives a fuck about Jean. No one's going to use their motion. Like, it's got to happen. We got to make sure this happens. Like, the previous senator, blah blah blah. And I'm running around him. Anyway,
man, that must have been a really good conversation.
It was.
Yeah.
So there was some stuff in the Senate that got confused, and basically no one had ended up doing the motion. So Travid used his motion to actually put it forward.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's like
that's his first motion.
Yeah.
Right? And he's worked so hard.
And I was like, you do understand how virtuous that is, right?
Yeah.
Like all your ambition that you wanted to do, you
use your wisdom,
use your wisdom and vigilance to like make sure that the position was filled rather than follow his.
Travid as a character is he and Tallis actually have some fundamental disagreements about certain things, about how things should run. But he's the kind of like the political individual that Tallis will follow because he knows he's a good man, and it's like and all of his actions are like for the betterment of Navarre and Navari interests.
And I know this is purely, I'm so selfish. In fact, I actually don't feel this way. Like going into, bear in mind, I still have to go for an election, right? So I still have no idea if I'm even electable. Is there someone else that's literally going to walk straight into the seat?
Yeah.
I'm genuinely, we need to have someone in the position. It doesn't need to be me, right? But we must have someone to be able to do that job.
I think it had reached that level for you. I think when you realised that it actually, like, it moved even beyond your own self-interest.
Dude, the Friday night meeting just made me go, oh my God, the world is on fire and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Right? Like... Like I'm just having visions of the future. Do you know what I mean?
Like they will literally write down what whoever person has to take the position has to say just to stop the fire.
Just listen, or whoever does take the position.
But anything,
I would
right?
be yanking their ear, right? Anyway, I went around. I had my good friend Gregor from Varushka, his maps to saddle, which are phenomenally good maps. I actually really struggled because these maps are really, really good, but trying to get them out and trying to hustle was really hard. By the way, how many traders were there?
A lot.
A lot of traders. Cakes, goodies, 101 different things.
Yes.
Guys hustling like freaking potions, anything.
I didn't even try with my any of my stuff.
You can sit down and just people will, even us at the back of the Navarre camp, wait, like with the arse end of nowhere.
Yeah.
We still had regular people coming by trying to sell stuff and
Yeah. And which is great, by the way. I do really love like the trading RP is actually really nice, right?
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy a bit of trading RP.
A little tactical snack when you're like, did you want a little bump? And I'm like, I didn't know I did until you mentioned it.
I mean, the marketing's just right.
Let me put it this way. James Hewitt walking around with oranges, like cut into sections after a battle, is
an outrageous proposition.
Oh, it makes me feel like an actual sports person, you know?
And it's like the crazy thing with the trading RP is this is all fun money, Mike. This is fun bucks. It doesn't mean anything, but it does mean something to you.
No, it definitely means something to me.
And then somebody comes at you with some mad RP that you should buy something, and it's suddenly very difficult.
I've bought carrots before, right? Like
if someone comes up to you with some mad trade RP,
mate,
it's very hard to resist purchasing the item.
So I had a couple of sales, which was good. I met loads of really interesting people. This is also another thing. If you have a high ticket item, you kind of have to selectively aim.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you can't just walk up to anyone and be like, "Hey, would you like to spend?"
I think you know the value of these maps, right? These maps are really good items. They should go at a good price.
So I had some friends, and I have some friends in the league, and I was just like, "Hey, blah blah blah," and I was just like, we'd heard this name, and I have checked with the player, by the way, so I can talk about this character.
Wow! Okay.
Yes. So we can actually talk about it.
Oh
right?
my word!
So this is we're gonna tell. I'm going to mention this character, and I think you know which character I'm talking about
before.
I haven't mentioned
so pleased you got in touch with them.
Okay, because
this is such a huge part of everything.
This character is one of those people that you hear mentioned all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, like,
oh my god,
something happened in the bourse. Oh, Lorenzo had something to do with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, something happened in Dawn.
Yeah.
Oh, Lorenzo had something to do with that. It's
a senator did a so-and-so, and then we heard that Lorenzo was behind it.
Yeah, people talking about him being like, well, if he's going for the throne, so like, he's going to win it, right? Like, it's like, this is a sort of like mythos and aura around this character.
Yeah.
I had no idea who the fuck this guy was, but I knew his name.
Yeah.
I knew his rep.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now I am, I'm just like, so I'm in the league.
I'd literally never seen him.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen him, actually.
I'm in the league, and I'm making a sale, and like they're saying blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, who's like? So Lorenzo comes up. Either I mention it or someone else does, and I'm like, oh, could you introduce us? What terms are you on with this guy? Like, would it be a bad thing if you introduce? No. We can introduce you, type thing. It's all good. Took me down there and met him, and it's like, dude, it's like really fucking cool bumping into.
You met Lorenzo.
Dude, I sold him a fucking map.
Oh my god, you met Lorenzo.
And
there's certain like characters, right?
I even gave him a more of a discount on the item than I wanted to. I didn't mean to. It was just like, he just Lorenzo'd me, and I took like 4 crowns off the price.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of like meeting.
But there was shenanigans with that, because I was talking to him about the principalities of Jean.
Yeah.
And how he was a senator, and how he was going to be, doing votes, and I was basically saying, well, I'm running
for this
position. I wonder what you would be looking for from a candidate to make you vote for them. And while we're negotiating, this is when we're having this conversation. The two are unconnected but entirely interwoven. So therefore it's just like, and then after the deal was done, it's like handshakes and like wishing you luck for your position, and like really nice to talk to you, and blah blah. And we talked a bit of politicking and stuff like this. But so then
that's that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Right? There's certain characters, and like, I think maybe even more so for me, like there's certain characters that you hear of them, and like they really are,
dude, it's
living, breathing, like
celebrity.
Radiators of right? And it's like, like the fact that you got to have like a meeting with Lorenzo is
and
really
it's
cool.
it's also just like everyone's just regular people, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like
I mean, I suppose there's like a bunch of people who I actually, I mean, there is like a person, I can't talk about it. There's a person I spoke to, and there's a person who like speaks to us later in all of this.
Yeah.
Which is like, they're amazing characters.
Yeah.
Right?
They really add to the whole thing. But yeah, I carried on going around. I went to Dawn. I met a Dawn senator there actually. And talked to him about it as well while I was sending maps. So there's always be hustling. Yeah. Is basically what I'm saying, right? Like you I felt like one of those guys that was like had a band demo.
Yeah.
And I had a courier job, right? And I'm like, every time I get to a new record executive's house, I like put my record in the pile of papers or whatever, and I'm like mentioning my band to people all the time. Yeah. That's how I felt trying to like basically like hustle the just awareness that I wanted.
I think it was a more challenging environment, right? Like just to sell things as well, because there was, as you said, there was just so many different options. Yeah, and I think people were trying to also spend money on the things you actually need for the game, the resources.
I was saying to Orion about this, but like we need a Gregor little shop in our camp.
Yeah, we should set
and
that
then
up.
To be like, this is where you come. At least we can like narrow
Send
it down.
people.
At the same time, like I was saying, I met like 2 senators. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm having one-to-one time with these people and kind of letting them know that I'm not, hopefully not a complete goofball. One of our friends, Sasha, who is Gregor's relation, they're the same player, Orion, died. Sasha died to the Valorn.
Yes, yeah.
There's some cool fluff in the Varushan stuff about how certain archetypes travel with the Navarre down the trods.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're friends with him anyway, so he was hanging out with us at a few player events. We get on very well. And so to have that like come together was like really nice, right?
The traditions work really well together.
Really well.
Yeah.
Like he's
especially
not outposting the camp at all.
our kind of entwined paths traditions, the way that we now have the tellings as a thing.
Hey, usually it's like if there's a player from a different nation who's constantly being drawn to Navarre, I'm like, you're probably a Navarre and you should just try and figure out a way to come and join us, right? Like, whereas Orion plays Varushka really, really well. And it's like, he's Varushkan through and through, right? Like, 100%.
Yeah,
anyway,
he's so good.
We heard about this, that there was a festival or something happening in Varushka to do with honouring of the dead. And we were going to do like a standing, but I was just like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we went and did something to honour Sasha in Varushka as Navarre, right? Like, that's not, that's very us, right? We're all about like gesture and stuff like this, right? So went down the Friday and nothing was happening, so we were like, oh, it's actually tomorrow between these times. And like, oh fuck. So we went back on the Saturday afternoon, and I got basically what it was I was told that I had to bring a piece of fabric. It could be anything. It could even be a piece of string, but something to add to this like lattice. And so I couldn't find anything, and then I went to visit my friends in the league again, Ellie and crew, and then I think Ali had a bloody rag.
That's cool.
And I was like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. So and it's so Navarre to bring a bloody rag to a. It's just so good, right?
It's I like that there's this very kind of Spartan's the wrong word, but it's that kind of almost on that vibe of like Navarre kind of like just will fight for like just to the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
like no fear even in the face of oblivion.
No, death is completely part of the job, right? Like 100%. Like, but yeah. So we arrive and I get to meet Uncle Boris, who I also got in touch with, so I get to talk about him as well.
Oh, cool. That's
Uncle
really cool.
Boris,
Uncle Boris
who we've heard
character.
about from Sasha and Gregor a whole bunch, to the point where I thought Uncle Boris wasn't a real person.
Yeah.
That Orion was just literally ad-libbing lines that he could attribute to Uncle Boris.
Yeah.
Then to find out Uncle Boris is a real person.
I think that's the thing. And it's a similar thing, right? to previously, it's like there's certain players that almost become mythos to your character, right? Like then, like different people have different players who are like that, right?
So when I came to find out information, I went, "Hi, my name's Skelet Ashbourne." He said, Boris. And I go, Uncle Boris?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, Sasha was a deep, like, close personal friend of mine. He was like, Sasha was a great person. It's just like, really good RP. Like it's immediately like such,
that's really nice.
You know, because two people that would never have met each other if it wasn't for this one character, and we get to come on really solid common ground. Okay, like we fully understand what each other are talking about, and we're like, I'm basically saying like, he fell to the Vlorn, but don't worry, we managed to free his soul. Right? You know, full Navarre, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, well, we heard about that you were doing this festival, and we wanted to come and show our respects. Would it be okay if we were part of this? And he was like, yeah, it's good to have favour of the grandmother and a bunch of other stuff. He mentioned some dreams as well, but I won't go into it too much. But like, you know, being part of this thing brings me closer to Verushka.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole thing in Navarre of respecting other nations' traditions as well. And that's supposed to be the vibe.
We do that like in spades. Like I really love this, right? Like this whole, and in fact, like there's more of this.
There's more
later.
of this later. It's a good example of this. Yeah,
I go over to the weave, which is literally like it's got like. It's like it's like a weave that makes a circle, right?
So
you pull the thread all the way around each time that you do this weave, okay? Yeah. Inward, outward, between the different fucking bits of twine coming off it. Yeah. So I tied my bit of bloody rag and did my weaving, and everyone was chill with me doing it. And then we had a moment of silence to Sasha. It was like, when we went on our way. And it was just a really nice moment. And I even doing it made me realise, like, actually, this is like a really great gesture between Navarre and Verushka. Like we're there legit because we want to do this. Yeah. But it was really cool having people all
politically
around even the people around the camp going, wow, you don't see that every day. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's cool, right? What I like about that is, and this happens a bunch in the game. It's really cool to go and visit other nations, and that you kind of almost can be like a low-key ambassador for that nation, right? And the way that you treat things.
I think that's exactly how I do things. Yeah. In fact, like even coming back and talking about this now, like Gellert is always
it's in your blood, right?
Yeah, it's like it's
in your blood.
What I heard, like a friend of mine said to me, like. You know when you feel good doing a nice thing, right? And the person said to me, "That's what being a nice person is like, right? You enjoy doing nice things." It's just like, well, what's cool is that you can go along and just by being like, I want to be respectful to these other nations, and I want to understand you guys and just show appreciation for what you guys did. Like, when I was in Dawn, I went up to a Dawnish knight, and I was just literally like, "Hey, you fought very bravely today. I saw you. You were involved in rescuing my friend, right? Like." Thank you for that, right? Like these little moments where you're like, "Hey, they're not."
It's great.
They're not just like crayon face murder monkeys. You know
what I like about it is because there's I'm kind of this player to a certain degree. Like is like, I find it quite difficult not to be nice and polite to people, right? Like being an antagonistic kind of character. Sometimes you might get the false perception that like that's the only way to make game to really shake stuff up. Or that, like, a good character, you have to be, like, massively good to, like, shake the game up. Actually, these little moments of, like, you just being nice or in another sort of area can actually have, like, an impact on the game.
And it does, okay? Right, like, literally, all of this does. It's surprising how many things have knock-on effects in the game, how by... Like, even, like the whole me yelling at that Dornish noble in a field late at night got me to meet a whole bunch of people in Eurozen.
A song was made about it, which we'll get to.
But, well, that's not spoilers. Spoilers. And then later on in the afternoon, Jeffrey came along and did a little song for you, didn't he?
Oh, that was amazing. So, one of the kind of things that's been built into the story, that obviously the PD puts together these kind of documents, basically called the Winds of War, Winds of Fortune, before the event takes place. And one of them was basically talking about the idea of this kind of fog that's given people sort of memory issues. Mm-hmm. And that's basically an IC way of explaining that OC people might not remember things. So Jeffrey kind of just didn't actually use that piece of lore to make this idea that I had forgotten that I had applied for a medical report if I'd been infected by the Vlorn. And he kind of presents this to me. I have no memory of it. But what's so good is he RPs that I literally have the medical condition that I can't remember this event. And I suddenly realise that's what he's doing, and I play into it, and it was so good. He hands me this like scroll that I open up, right, and inside it are all these kind of like diagrams and so on, and he's kind of it literally is just shapes and actually really nice item. I'll have to take a photo of it and post it up actually, but it had all these kind of like these lines on it essentially that made no sense. They were meant to make no sense, because then he basically went on to describe, oh, this proves that you don't have an infection from the verloren. In fact, you have a bad case of blah blah blah. And it's basically the introduction to this song that he's written, that he suddenly bursts into.
I missed the fucking song.
It was so good.
I read the lyrics
because he actually, before he gave me the thing, as he had me looking at the thing, he handed out these 2 other pieces of paper saying this is a copy of the before. What it actually was the lyrics to the songs to 2 other people, right? So they could join in on the chorus as he like gave this to me. It was so good, dude. It was man. It was so good. I couldn't RP how good it was. Like, I literally just like, I was like, wow, I can't believe that someone has gone to all of the effort to do something like that. For me, it was so good.
I read the lyrics and they were hilarious.
It was very, so very good, right? Like, yeah, like amazing. So he did a phenomenal job. That was a great moment. Yeah, phenomenal. One of the things I should say actually about your earlier part of going to Sasha's funeral was I couldn't make it, and one of the reasons I couldn't was because I was hustling pretty hard for the thimble at that point. Which was like a whole side of all of this, and this went a lot into my Friday as well, that like I had no plan on getting involved in literally before I attended the event, which is this idea that I would actually be going around talking to a lot of people, shaking hands. You know, I'm a politician, that means I'm a liar and a cheat. When I'm kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you got to get out there and do all of that. And that's just something I had not done before. So anybody who interacted with me, thank you so much, because like my very bad attempts at like doorstep politician.
I thought you had a really good position. You were like,
well, I mean, it was literally full accountability.
Like I said, I was like saying to the guys, I was like, okay, like Simwig offered to help pay to upgrade things so you could effectively bribe people to vote for you, but said like, oh, they would have to get like a taste of the weirwood, and you were like, no, every single piece of the weirwood has to go on like national interest.
I wanted basically the main premise was essentially I wanted a third party to audit everything. And be fully accountable at every stage.
So basically. I was like, that's your fucking sales pitch.
Yeah.
You know, get out there and tell them that when Talis only wants to, he's not about trying to like line his own pockets with the sale of weirwood. He is literally going to do things. It's a national board seat. The resources are meant for the nation. Yeah. Let's get that army built. Let's get some forts built. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the prosperity argument of like it will be prosperous for the nation and thus for my pride, right? Mm-hmm. Of like that's what's prosperous about it. Like there's no need to make money from it because it prospers me, like in the way and the nation.
But it also like our ambitions to defeat the Verlorn, for example, right? Like these are all very easy to justify within the way, right?
So, but like, it was a lot to go for, and I'm sure other people hustled around loads as well. So, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot more than I thought I was getting myself in for, but like because it was a proper kind of 2-day. Go places, often like go to the hub just to sit sort of on the Saturday just to see if you could see anybody near it. It was literally like canvassing.
Yeah.
Right? Like see if you could see anyone near it. But the most
brutal form of like I think if that sort of position, people had signage up in places. Yeah. I would, if I was going to run for something like that, I would literally print out cards.
Yeah, I mean, because I had no plan before the event.
No, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it was and it was a very spur in the moment where like I really hadn't decided to go for it till pretty much the day. Like, I'd spoken about it to certain people, but why I didn't initiate until I basically decided that I was going to go to the Vines Council, listen to their thing, and then, even then, it didn't actually actuate until I spoke at the Vines
It's a very
Council.
similar story to some of the elections I went for earlier on, right? Like, you hear about a thing, and then, like, even by running for it, you end up, like, gaining a better experience of it. And therefore, if you're ever going to do it again, then you're going to have a much more refined like strategy towards going in and getting
So
something?
we were able to sort of get some support for me, like from like friends and so on, obviously, and people within the Entwined Paths and all of that. But then we were able to. I was also able to like do some things where like some people just needed my time essentially to go and brew some potions, and obviously Talis is an alchemist and brew a bunch of potions, and they were good friends of ours, and they were like, okay, we'll give you our vote if you do this, which was a really nice thing. It's like, it's literally costs me nothing. It's just like kind of a bit of like sort of good humoured faith, you know what I mean, in the thing. And I kind of really appreciated that, so I got a whole bunch of votes that way.
That's literally what it's all about, though.
And then it was like, I had a couple of people who just came up to the camp and was like, oh, could you please tell me your name? And then so I can vote for you the next day, which was just like really awesome, right? Like actually having those people who came up to me and said that they'd like vote for me. It was so good. I was like so stunned that people would do that with their time in the game that like I was impolite and forgot to ask their names on both occasions. A couple of occasions it happened, but it was like I was just so stunned that like people would do that, right? So it was really good. That was, for me, it was a really awesome thing to go for.
We need to work on your...
Oh, my PR's terrible.
Yeah, that's a very bad look.
That's very bad.
You know what I mean? Like, oof.
I know.
Okay, so there's also this... We interviewed them, well, one of them on the podcast when we talked about the league. But there is a fashion magazine called The Looking Glass.
Yeah.
Is it just called The Looking Glass?
Just The Looking Glass, yeah.
And it's like, it's a publication that all the fancy dressed people of the Empire covet and like want to be in, and like it's a real big status symbol to be able to
just
get
a cool thing to be in the game. Like it's a bit, it's one of those things where it's like, what a great idea to have like a gossip magazine that attracts like a certain type of person who wants to engage in like,
well, I think it also
celebrity, faux celebrity kind of status.
I don't see
right?
anything wrong with this kind of like tongue in cheek.
Yes, it's very tongue in cheek. That's what I love about it. Actually.
And kind of like it's fun, and it's like, but it also is a nice way to kind of like celebrate people's ability
it's
to make
also
themselves...
a crafts fair, right?
Yeah, totally. It is a crafts fair, right? Like it's kind of like there were the elements of the kind of cosplay stuff. But it's LARP, so therefore it's very practical as well. You know,
I was desperate to go. Like it was like the one thing that Talis wants. I think it's like probably the one thing I want is to get involved and be part. Like
we joked about how we were going to take Talis and like dump him off at Urizen, and then like Urizen would be like, "Hey, well, we don't want him," and then both of us would come together and like throw you into the league. And these stunned league-looking people like look down at you and like, but like, I think it's really fun that you're like engaging in this stuff, because like our friend Ellie is obviously really she's a wonderful,
insanely talented.
It's ridiculous. It's outrageous, the costume that she creates, right?
It's like so crazy.
But to see like this kind of like, it's something that I'm truly shit at, but like I really like enjoy how much people enjoy that part of the game, and how fucking cool it makes everything else. Like I walked past the Looking Glass when I think it was on sale.
Yeah,
there's a big old queue, and the queue was like the most fabulously dressed from all the different nations. It was like the absolute tippity top of each of the nations represented there.
And it was tragic because, like, for everything, I really wanted to do this, like ICOC, but like ultimately, Talis knew that getting the thimble or trying to get the thimble was more important, so he couldn't. Basically, I decided I'd politic more than go to the Looking Glass thing. I should have done it, but I think it was in character, right? It was in character that like actually when the chips are down, that's how Talis actually is.
Yeah, dude, the Looking Glass will be there. You'll be able to add even more fancy shit to your outfit.
But I'd like basically said to Kaylee, who's the leader of the Nvarchas, the night before, that we should definitely do this and we should go down there and do all of this. So I did feel And it was something I obviously clearly wanted to do, like massively. So I was like, yeah. So even though I knew it was,
I'm really surprised you didn't go. I'm really surprised.
I literally felt it was the IC right decision, right? And that's how, like...
I know, but...
It was, I know, it was a big thing. It was hard to pick.
It's genuinely shocking to me that you didn't go. For all the time and effort and how much we talked about it and how you were like, oh my God, look at this.
But me and Kelly basically went along basically after sale, and we went there and just sort of hung around. And for me, it was just... awesome to hang around over there.
Just hang out there.
I did.
Oh, you're so gross.
I am gross.
You're so gross.
But I managed to buy the last copy as well. Oh, it was so good. I was like so pleased. I was quite nervous as well, and I have to say I went out in like this was the full thing, right?
Yeah, you had your.
I had like my whole kind of weird like leaf crown thing, which is kind of like, I don't know.
That is, I love all of it. That one piece is just a step too far for me. It's so outlandish.
Yeah.
And like...
I knew it was very challenging at that stage, and I agree. I actually do agree with the situation, which is why I only... It's a character flaw, right? It's a character flaw. Is the way I kind of view it. Like, the fact that he would put it on and go down, and like, it's kind of like... It is like that's the part where Talis goes too far.
I think it's interesting how like you've used a lot of this stuff from your previous stuff with Urizen, and there's loads of Urizen stuff in your kit where it's like Navari. It's just very interesting. Like basically, we're gonna have to just insight the shit out of you going forward. But,
it was great fun anyway. Went down there, and one of the other things, like I can't talk too much about this because it's there's a lot of like character stuff, but it's like. There's some really awesome ideas about things that could be done. Kaylee's like a really good artist, right? A sketch artist, and we were still talking about a bunch of ideas of how you could use that as like the equivalent of a photographer in all the context that means. I think there could be a lot of fun doing stuff like that. So, it was fun. So we went and did all that, and it was just a really good hoot, and all the people at Looking Glass were really kind.
I'd heard about the Festival of the Reaper at the League and was like, got to go get me a piece of that action. Yeah. So usually I don't bring a mask and therefore keep the fuck out of the League through all of that. Because basically if the Reaper sees you without a mask on, it recognises your face and therefore you're supposed to die within a year, but it's not necessarily because it's kind of fun, but it's like this is a kind of folklore around it.
I love it as a thing, like what it represents as like an IC thing, right? That there's like there's literally an otherworldly thing
the
that
Crimson
walks around.
Reapers were involved, which is Ellie and her crew, like
which means
Nick.
You know it's going to be amazing. Right?
Just the level of how awesome they looked as a group. Like, okay, I'm like, I have loads of shit to do. Okay, what was I doing? Oh, I had a night skirmish on in the evening.
We'll get to that.
And then was like, I had a whole bunch of shit to do, so I was running around. I was trying to like fit everything in before all this stuff would happen. So the thingy was at 7, so I ran down there to go and see that. And they were kind of getting prepped, and I was like, I don't want to be involved while you're getting prepped. Like, I'll go and wait down the thing. And basically, I said to someone like, "Hi, is it cooler from here?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So they had a bowl, like on a little plinth. And then they had to... So the legions were there, and then they kind of had a bit of a ceremony, and then they had to pour each of the 3 rivers, like water from each of the 3 rivers into like this thing. Okay. This is all probably bastardized. I apologize. But, it was cool, right? It was really fun to do the ceremony, and then it was like everyone has to like you're supposed to put cash in the bowl, which is supposed to do something,
right? Okay,
But then I think the money all goes to like national causes or something.
Okay,
and then it's like the Festival of the Reaper starts, and then the Reaper. I'm at the row of tents with a corridor coming down them, and I'm standing by this thing, and I'm looking up. I'm wearing a bandana, by the way. Everyone's wearing these like fabulous masks, like eyes wide shut shit, right? Or even better, like they were like animals and other stuff. They were all like really cool and individual. It was like that was one thing that like really like really memorable from the whole thing was how individual and how unique all these different personas were.
Andy's new character's Leaguish as well, and has like, I actually don't know her character name. His character name yet. But they've got like this mask, right? This kind of rat mask on, and it's like, and that's just like part of their character all the time. It seems it's so cool the way like these kind of these people use the character that way. Coming
down this row of tents is the Reaper, like giant fucking skull head.
Yeah.
Scythe. Yeah. Like it's like the Grim Reaper, right? With an entourage of just like impeccably dressed, all in black, skull face wearing masks, like group of banners, all this stuff, and they come down there, and then then it was played by my friend Nick, but he starts doing like the beginning of the ceremony. He's just bossing it, right? I'm not even sure if it's Nick in there, right? Like it's just awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
And I'm like watching this stuff, and it's like really, really cool. And I kind of I step back, and then I have a word with Ellie. And I stick around for a minute. Okay, and then what happened, Ian? Something happened.
Right.
And Lorenzo's mask was on the floor.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. Lorenzo is looking terrified, okay? And the Reaper comes up to him and just says, Lorenzo, I know your name, blah, 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 I recognise your face. Yeah. And like, there's some other stuff being said, and then Lorenzo starts to convulse.
Right.
And like collapses to the ground. Yeah. And then the Reaper, just cold as ice, heads off further down into the town, leaving him like on the floor, and like a physic has to come running over. And I'm just like, I gotta fucking go, but what did I just witness?
That's like, bonkers.
What? Like, this is crazy, right?
It changes everything.
It's like to be there was like, what the fuck? Like, this is absolutely insane. Okay. Then I had to run off and try and get to this fucking night skirmish. Now, I wasn't going to mention this, but it is relevant to the story. What I was going through at the time could only be politely described as stomach trouble.
Yes,
on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like what happened to my body over that time period. But basically, I had to be rather close.
It was tactical.
It was a tactical situation. Much tactical. I mean, Jesus. Like, at one point, I went to, like, the toilets near the Navarre, and, like, one of them had been blocked, and then the other was being used, and I was just like, I gotta fucking go. I gotta get down to that one by the hub, right? You know, there's loads of them up there. It's just like, there's a queue, and I had to make, like, a tactical decision, like, am I gonna have to... Yeah, I just gotta fucking do it. Oh my god, dude. And that was the one. Yeah. That was actually the one where I went all the way down there, sat down, and this is after Bungler giving me some Imodium, and I just went, Poop. Nothing happened. I walked all that way, clenching, being terrified. God, I don't know if I should release this, but I'm just telling you how it was.
No.
But then, night skirmish, okay? Yeah. And the idea for this night skirmish was, there was the Druge were looking after this fort, okay?
Yeah.
And the orcs were going to come, our orcs, Imperial orcs, were going to come and make like a ruckus at the front of the thing.
I had no idea that Gellert was going on this night skirmish.
No, it was very much let's just fuck it, let's roll the dice. Yeah. Like, I was in a kind of like, oh man, like, this weekend's been a bit up and down, I want to go and get me some. Do you know what I mean? Like, the battle in the morning hadn't quite... Like, you know what I mean? Hit that high note that I wanted, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
I should have done a skirmish, yeah.
So, but bear in mind, I'm like... critical at this stage, right? Yeah. Like I'm really rolling the dice not only for my character life but also my reputation at Empire forever. Okay, like you don't want to be the guy that's waddling back. You know what I mean? Like, and I was wearing green trousers instead of brown trousers. It would have gone terribly wrong. So I run down there and I'm just like, and then it turns out that something happened. I think one of the orc groups, I don't know the orc group, but one of their generals had died and there was a bunch of other stuff, so they were unable for whatever reason to be able to come and attend this. So basically the event still happened, but no one went on it. Okay. Oh, I should say the orcs were supposed to track them. A group of like 7 Navarre, 11 Navarre was supposed to sneak with an artifact and put it in the camp.
Right.
And then this would drive their like thralls crazy and attack the Druge.
Okay.
And then we would just leave.
Right.
And all of this is like it's English kind of like springtime, and for those that live in certain parts of the world don't really understand that how long days in England can become.
Yeah.
We think it's normal, but honestly foreigners think it's wacky how high we are to the equator, right?
Yeah.
But the sun was still up at like 7,
Yeah.
and the skirmish was at 8, and any daylight at all would have just made sneaking the most ridiculously pointless thing, right? Like, this is very much low number skirmishes in the dark are usually how you get murdered, right? Like that's how you die in Empire. That's a really easy way. Like if you're looking for a way out of your character and don't want to continue,
I'm genuinely surprised you went ahead with it.
No, I was.
Yeah.
It's part of me, and I can't not, right? So
I think that actually we'd spoken about this quite a lot going in, that like we'd all known that if Anna had wanted to break out in some kind of way, that part was not yet done with Dave Wimpenny.
Yeah, I feel
you know what I mean? Like
if Gellert dies, I'm definitely coming back as like very martial.
Yeah,
like I might even use my clank to go over the Dawn and just be absolute mad laddery.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Anyway, so it was cancelled. But what was cool was, as I headed back, it was I want to get the name right, the Highguard Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Where literally they all come out in cloaks and had these incenses burning and had these burning torches. I mean, fucking epic.
Yeah.
Just really cool. They have a ceremony. Then they go around and ask each leader of each group who they've lost in the last year, and then each of them read out loud who had died.
Yeah.
And it's like really cool just to kind of remember the dead.
Yeah.
And then they all take off and walk around Anvil basically, and it's like in a big like really like sad, solemn conga line around the thing,
and it just looks really cool because it's like a torchlit kind of
at
march
night.
At night. Loads of people, and anyone, they have this whole thing of like anyone can kind of join the column and walk, and you can drop in and out, but it's like, you know, it's kind of quite a solemn kind of thing. It's very cool, like the aesthetic even of it. Like I've walked in it before the previous time, and someone like handed me a torch to carry as I like joined it and stuff. It was awesome, right? And then somebody was happy to take the torch when I kind of had to step off when I got to...
fire safety first, but
It's,
it
was really cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed bumping into that. You got to hang out with my favourite freeborn.
Right, so this is like the highlight probably of my thing. I got to go to basically to the Brass Coast and hang out with the freeborn and meet up with Bastiana. And just, it was like originally we'd planned to basically go to this tea room that was there and just sort of hang out. And the idea was literally just to gossip, like Empire gossip for like an hour, right? But the tea room was closed. We just kind of like went round the campfire and sort of sat there. Meanwhile, there was like a funeral behind us, and she just got married, I see. It was so cool. Like, it was such an awesome environment. And people coming into the conversation and stuff. And we just had a genuinely awesome, like, just chat off. It was just so good. It was like exchanging gossip around the fire. And also, like, a bunch of times people would come up, be introduce myself in a very kind of, you know, in that kind of environment. It was very cool. And then they would explain like the lore behind the characters, and like there was a group called the Kohan, and their numbers were getting more reduced, and like Bastiana explained that like the Kohan had like extracted her from this war-torn area, right, and gave like the whole backstory thing, like it would be sad if they weren't to like continue and all this. It was so good, and it was like we were kind of like having all of those kind of conversations,
cultural exchange.
Yeah, it was really good all the time, while just like we're just joking about that, like they're having a fairly kind of chill time, right? Or, like we'll just be like, I'm following Travid around. I just watched Travid, and he just. It's just so much walking. It made me realise that being a proxy is where I'm meant to be. You know what I mean? Like I just, it was so good, right? Like we're just constantly bouncing off. It was great. It was an awesome conversation. I loved it. It was just a real highlight, and it actually like it was that and the trip to the Looking Glass that really like made my Empire amazing, right? It was really awesome. These two moments with Kaylee and Bastiana are just like, just awesome RP, just good fun.
I can't afford to hang out in the Brass Coast. It's just too expensive.
Yeah, it was
ever
so
since I
good.
started giving like a ring away to Bastiana every time she said something hilarious. It's just too expensive to hang out.
It's too expensive.
You got a tarot deck?
Oh yes. So this was comedy. So basically, Sophie, who plays Fionn, she had made. Well, I'd asked her after the player event previously, where I had 2 tarot readings that came out identical and had identical descriptions. Like, I'd asked her to basically make me a tarot deck.
Which is nuts, by the way, to have the same reading of 2.
Literally the same.
Yeah, literally the same. Yeah, exactly the same.
Exactly the same, right? And I was like, this is so outrageous.
Are you sure she isn't hustling you with cards?
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care.
either.
I don't care. Why would I care? It's
the
best story in town, right? Like literally the same things from 2 different decks. So it's like, I have to have a tarot deck now. Why wouldn't Talis have a tarot deck at this point? I must have one. And also her tarot deck was really good. It was basically these wood blocking grey and carved kind of pressings. And so I said I want one in like purple with silver. Have it as a whole year as any element. And it was like, was so cool, right? And
but beautiful cards. You're
gorgeous.
You're going to have to do your research, basically.
Yeah. And but the funny thing was, I was supposed to put these up on Thursday, and it was now very late on Saturday, and I eventually got them just because we'd both been so busy, like hustling around. Right, that's the crazy thing. Just going around, seeing people doing things, shaking hands, all that kind of weird stuff, right? It was really cool. But we eventually managed to catch up and trade, so that was good.
Nice. I went to Songs and Stories on Saturday night. Fuck me, the performances were just like outrageously good.
Yeah.
Like a few of my highlights. There's one lady with like a little ukulele. She did a beautiful song. There was a duet between 2 players. Again, I haven't spoken to them, but holy Jesus, a duet with ukuleles and singing together about
really
how
good.
fucking how the best way to party is by partying with Brass Coast and Navarre. And it's like calm down, like you're far too talented and far too entertaining, outrageously good. That was a really smutty story that was really, really fun in the words. That was hilarious and kind of like just the right tone to everything. I
love the stories. Like I really like I think like, because there's a lot of challenge in delivering a story, right? Because I mean, there's those challenges of delivering a song as well. But I think there is a very different thing to doing a story, and I really appreciate everyone who does it.
I find it hilarious how it's like singers would love to be storytellers, and storytellers would love to be singers, and it's like it's really funny. But one thing you do get to see is like. And I highly recommend, by the way, like don't feel like you have to be like really confident and really amazing to go and tell stories or do songs. That's not the point at all. But what you can do is watch people who are phenomenally good at their craft and learn a load. Like I love watching other storytellers because it's more strings to my bow learning about how different, like obviously Al's fucking master level fucking storyteller. Ryan hadn't seen his Clegane story.
His Clegane story is so good.
I was just like, dude, like this is you're in for a fucking treat.
I did exactly the same with Paige. So Paige was just standing beside me, and I said, like, as soon as he sort of mentioned the first few words, I just turned to her. I said, "This story is phenomenal."
Yeah, and it was like,
and then halfway through, she turned to me and she agreed, "This is phenomenal."
Yeah, I've heard that story, and I don't think I'll ever get bored of hearing that story.
It's my favourite. It's my favourite story I've heard in Mark. It's so good.
But one thing that happened was I was aware that a gentleman in Dawn was writing a story.
Oh my god, this was so good.
About how me at a player event, had
Gellert Ashbourne
had heard from another member of my banner that a member of a Dornish banner had said the words "Death to Navarre."
Yeah.
Because they had said that they had overheard
Yeah.
this incorrectly.
Yeah.
Okay? So I was immediately angry at the person who had told me for not having dealt with the situation right there and then.
Right.
Like, you can't...
Yeah.
There's no way we can, like, allow that to happen. Words have meaning and power,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, you have to check that shit. I walked over there quite late, a little inebriated, and
I think everybody was.
I had a little conversation with them in the middle of the night, okay? And I wanted an apology, and I got my apology, basically. That's a short version of the story, isn't it? Now,
it was.
Now,
yeah.
what happened was, during the battle on Saturday, there was a group of Dornish nobles, I won't say who they are, but a group of Navari had gone up to them and said, "Are you this group?" They said, "Yes, we are." And then that group of Navari fucked off and left them. Really exposed.
That's
Shouldn't
so funny.
shouldn't laugh. But basically, I think they were aware that probably fucking with Navarre, not a good plan, and they wanted to basically set the record straight, maybe with a bit of PR. And he had written this song to kind of do it, but his voice was fucked, so he had to tell it as a story, which was no reducing of the experience, because it was. The guy's really fucking good, by the way. I think he might actually be a professional actor, but really good, really talented, really solid. Knows exactly how to hold a crowd, all the things I'm talking about, like all the techniques. And I get another fucking story about me in Songs and Stories.
What was funny as well was because the way the story was crafted was that it was so obviously not true.
Yeah.
It was the fantasy fictional version of this story that made everyone look bad.
It was
right?
so good.
It was like, let's unify it.
It made it out.
It made like you were like some mad, like murderous,
bloodthirsty, heavily armed.
Yeah. And you marched down there with loads of people.
Yeah, I marched down there with loads of people, which is bullshit. I marched down there on my own. Okay, like the people that came with me were trying to stop me. They were not. That was not and there was like 2 or 3 people. I take offence at that, but it
was a cool idea to smear everyone. It was so good.
Dude,
I
saw the guy come in because I'd heard that he was going to do something. I'd spoken to him briefly at a different event that he was doing something about it. We hadn't met, but he was writing the story before we met. But I saw him and I basically said to him, like, dude, you can throw me under the bus if you want. Yeah. Like, if you want to throw me under the bus, go for it. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm just saying, so I said to him, like, whatever that feeling is of any nervousness around me, forget about it. Yeah. Just have a great time up there and express yourself, you know? Yeah. So, but he did the story and it was really funny. I got to stand up and be like, speaking as Gellert Ashbourne, that story is about 65% accurate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was so funny. Really funny. Also there was a whole bunch of stuff where like, Navari was right. This kind of stuff. But, it was so good.
Dude, anything that gets your name out there and it's just like, if you're a new player and you have no idea who Gellert Ashbourne is, well, now I'm like a thing in their conscious mind of the game. It's so cool.
It's awesome that if Anne Ashbourne is still a very prominent presence, even just if it's just for us.
He's
as a
in our banner.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. But
I mean Gellert as a character in the game now. Like I'm feeling my influence coming out, and it feels really nice. Like, let's go to Sunday and the battle. Okay. Like more Jotun, everyone's favourite. We got to be the monsters this time. We all had orc masks.
We both had orc masks
because we're good boys.
Well, no, it was like I think we both decided that we really just wanted, not to
I'm
have
so
to...
over like having to deal with all that shit. Like having my own orc mask. Dude, we got ours before. Did we get them before COVID?
Oh yeah,
we did get them before COVID.
This was ages ago.
But it was like, so PD had a big problem where basically, obviously, you don't want to have mask sharing too much, or not at all. In fact, really, because you can't sanitize it as easy, or it's hard to sanitize. So they had to kind of make a decision. So they had an awful lot of people for this battle. It was basically Jotun and marchers.
Like traitor marchers.
Traitor marchers. But we had orc masks, so we get to go and tag along. They had an EMU with masks, but we like
another one.
We got to make our own little squad. And it was really fun. I liked the guy who was leading us. He was a friend of
ours. It was really cool.
The fingers as an identifying thing. Generally, I would say like because I asked the question when we were talking about it, I'm like, can we have a name
Yeah.
just to identify
It was a really
us.
good idea.
Always do this.
Yes, yeah,
because
It
orc
unifies
masks,
the military unit.
as soon as an orc mask, as soon as you hit the line, you're gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, you can guarantee among like 20, 25 people, there's going to be someone who, when you mention the name of the group, is going to come up with a funny little story about the group. And it's like, and Ryan was doing that. Like,
talking back now is like, I cringe at my terrible humour. Do you know what I mean? Like, but
of course.
Orion's like amazing though.
Yeah,
like,
but it's fun. And before the battle started, right, was probably my favourite part of the battle. Like, just when there's this bit where they're coming out of the gate.
no, you have to describe what's happening first.
Okay.
So basically, we're all like, we're orc units, we're in the woods.
Yes.
Instead of coming through the main gate area where they usually come back at the end of the field,
Yeah.
they have to come through the woods back to that infamous gate that was coming from yesterday's battle, okay? And basically there's a palisade over one side, on the far side of where the gate is, and we're in the woods looking onto the gate.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of a clearing area of about, I don't know,
It's fairly
10, 15 meters, like coming out from there. And we've basically made a ring with the kind of chaffy Marcher allies, and us as like a shock unit in the woods, and there's a few orc units with us. And basically, the idea is they're going to come out, and then we're going to kind of jump on them, which is exactly what happened, right? Loved the opening. It like
the beginning was amazing.
There was some really. Our side had some really good charge, hit, and withdrawals. Or even fake out charges and withdrawals. There was some really spicy.
It was
monstering.
like, also for me, my favourite part was just that initial build up when they were coming out of the gate and they were starting to form that sort of like semicircle, and we were doing like, it was like a hacker in the like, not really, but it was more like a, I don't know,
chants,
like,
right?
chants,
like orcish
in
chants, right? Like Jotun, and there was a bunch of other chants that we had, but and just grunting and hitting the shields.
Yeah,
and
I was like jumping up and down on the spot.
You get overexcited. Yeah. You always get overexcited. That's why it's really easy to spot you in these moments, because you definitely get overexcited. But I love those moments of hanging out with everyone and like all that stuff. For me, most of the battle was like we got engaged in the woods. I think there was a lot of winter mark there, and it just got into a very.
It was quite a stalemate, essentially.
Stalemate, like just poking at shields, trying to keep them back. Basically, from their point of view, all they could see was pole arms. From our point of view, all we could see was shields. So it kind of was just two lines poking at each other for a very long period of time. Eventually, I got downed. I got cleaved twice and had to go to medical and come back again. Eventually, I was like, they made a good push, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm down, but it made sense that anyway. I went down, went to respawn. It was really nice to take my mask off. I don't know about you, but I struggled. Like, I was tired. I overheated. I was like gassing out. I was like in a terrible place.
I was fine actually, but it was just a case of like essentially sort of moving around this kind of front line that you're kind of exploring. And then I just got ran at, and it was just like, it was a really good move.
We were doing just constant charge and withdrawals.
And people die in that, right?
Fuck, I was just so knackered and hot. And then when they did manage to push, I was like, welcome for the fucking death, to be honest. So I went and respawned, came back.
Did you have a spear?
Yeah, I had a spear. I borrowed Good Day's spear.
Another massive element of this was spears were effective, but I had ambi. And I was absolutely useless in that battle.
Completely useless.
I spoke to a bunch of people.
I felt fairly useless with a big fucking spear against these shields.
I just couldn't, because there's no lateral movement, right? And you're outreached and outdefended.
Like, completely useless.
Completely
useless.
I basically... So, like... I was kind of just probing and just threatening because that's all I could do. And then at the end, I just got moved on and destroyed.
The spear is pretty good for a static line fight.
It's classic. Ancient peoples worked this out. Right?
I want to say, like, basically the battle ended up being, they pushed out into a teeny little circle. We circled them. The respawns felt quite slow, and then we basically encircled them a bit. Then they eventually buggered off, And then everyone was a bit confused
Well,
of who had won
Yeah.
and what was actually going on, really. So, but positives,
Yeah.
okay. I was fighting a bunch of Wintermark guys. Really good things like,
Yeah.
hey, I hit your arm for the call. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know. Sorry.
Again,
and then,
it was really loud. It was a
really loud
and
Everyone's
intense.
clanking, really intense.
Really
Like,
intense.
I was banging hard with those boys in the woods, by the way. They were like the big clanky boys, but really good natured.
Yes.
Like really good natured.
Yeah.
And like I was fighting one guy. He was like a helmet off, heroic motherfucker, but he cleaved me and then said, "Oh, I cleaved you," and I was like, "Oh, sorry." You know what I mean? Like I literally didn't hear you, and then went off. And then I want to give a shout out to Urizen as a nation, but two characters specifically. But it's not just these two guys, but the whole nation. I would say were fantastic at taking calls and being involved in heroic combat.
Amazing.
But
the heroic combat, I think, of Urizen is just so good.
They all
so
good. But the two players that I know and they're friends of mine are what are their in-character names?
Lanius
and Vespasian.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Lanius had his shield
shattered
6 times because I know the guys that were doing it.
Yeah.
And every single time he would just RP it and be like, fuck it, and then get stuck in, and then go and find another shield eventually, and then come back in again. Like, just baller. Like, you want to be a fucking hero? That's how you do it. You play exactly by the rules, and then you still fucking be a baller. Okay, Vespasian, I had cleave, okay? He was wearing heavy armor. I had a spear. It's got a slight hook to the end. Yeah. I came around and cleaved the back of his leg.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he took it and went down immediately, okay?
Yeah. And it's one of those kind of 50-50 blows.
No, but I was like, hey, that looked like heavy armor. But what you told me later was, no, it only covers the front.
He knows where it's covering.
He knew it hit the back and therefore took the hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bravo, Brad. Just as a guy wearing an orc mask, as a person that doesn't know you, like, that's what the fuck I'm talking about. That is such good game. He didn't hesitate for a second. Yeah. As soon as it hit the back of his leg and he heard the cleave call, he went over. And I was just like, it was great. And I found those
people did that up and down the field.
My experience on the field was actually incredibly good. And like, bear in mind, like, I'm talking about that Wintermark one. I got hit in the arm and cleaved, and I didn't hear it. Yes. And the guy said, you got cleaved. And then even later in the battle, I went, oh, did you cleave? And the guy was like, no. And I was like, okay, cool. And it's like, this is the sort of thing that you want. Like, you want to fight and you want to fight hard, but these are people on the other side. You don't want to dehumanize them into some monstrous thing. And like, it was just really nice.
It was really cool. I mean, in the previous day in the battle, when I was playing and I was acting as an archer, the number of people who took hits that were, it's hard to tell actually sometimes where you've been hit. Mm-hmm. I found invariably people gave me the benefit of the doubt, and I think that's like, and that was up and down the field in both battles. I feel like I was always really like it was great. Everyone just was so good about it.
I honestly think I think there's something about those tight-in close fights, the choke points, unfortunately, they're so loud and chaotic, and really the only thing that breaks those up is calls, and they're really hard to hear.
Yeah,
like I just think it's like it's just hard to overcome, because in an open field, I think most players are really like, it's a lot easier to hear and it's a lot less intense.
But it's essentially like 20 on 20 or 15 on 15 or 10 on 10. It gets very hard to hear.
It depends
in a compressed place.
on the scale of it, right?
The intensity
and how
intense of it.
The intensity is what I'm talking about, of course, right? And unfortunately, the more intense it is, the harder it is to hear, which is when you want calls to be that most effective. So it's a weird thing. It's an observation. Yes. I'm sure, like, people that actually know what the fuck they're talking about. No, I'm even saying, like, I could be completely wrong.
Oh yes,
like,
I agree.
I have no idea. Brewing potions, Ian?
Yeah, so after the battle, basically, like, Sunday's often a weird one after the battle because it's essentially you're kind of thinking about packing up, but obviously you've still got things you want to do. Everyone's got those sort of various hustles on. You're kind of closing business, and there's a whole bunch of potions basically that we wanted to get brewed. And the basic process for that is you do some RP and then you head down to God, and essentially you hand in your cards to get a better card, essentially, right? And the queue was just ginormous because everyone's trying to do the same thing. And I just wanted to say that people working in God right, were just fantastic, right?
Oh,
Like you've
by
got
the
to
way,
think about the
God was so good, by the way. Like on the Friday when we went down there,
Yeah.
they were so efficient when we were getting our player packs. They were
Yeah.
unbelievable. And like to all of the crew, like we probably don't mention this enough.
Yeah.
You're not being paid. You're taking your own time and looking
Yeah.
after us and putting loads of effort in. Like,
incredible.
it just
The
really,
effort
really
people
great,
make.
right? Like, I think it's like the obviously PD do a lot to make them feel appreciated, but like as players, as us,
Yes,
nice one,
incredible.
thank you so much.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw a massive shout out to them particularly because it was a huge. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's the whole crew actually. I mean, whenever you think about the crew, you just think of
is enormous.
every aspect of it, like all the people who like everything. But so massive thank you to the crew.
Yeah. So Sunday, I go around, I drop some money off, I collect some money at a few different places, and then it's time. It's game time, everyone. It's the final Senate on the Sunday, 2 p.m, just before timeout.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a motion to the ambassador to Jarm.
Yeah.
It's time, right?
Yeah.
I've met people over the weekend. I've met like people that worked in, like I met one guy who was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Who's a diplomat who was an ambassador to a nation. And me and him had a really good conversation where we sat down and were like, he said, "What do you think about this?" And I went, "This is what I think about this." And I said, like, "You'll probably disagree." And he goes, "Actually, I agree with you more than you could ever. Like, it's refreshing to hear you talk.
Yeah, that take,
and I really hope that you get elected." Right? Like, this was a conversation I had, and it was like, "Oh snap, son!"
I think there's another very interesting dynamic to all of this as well, and it's like again another backdrop for the whole sort of event was that there's actually the whole element of that we support Skywise Fowl, and Skywise Fowl. And that obviously, like the fact that you're able to,
let me get into that, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I'm like really nervous. I have to go and grab a burrito. My stomach is still really fucked.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely
that must be kind of
dude.
weird.
I'm genuinely worried that at some point I'm gonna be like, oh whoop, and then be like, oh shit, I have to leave right now and miss it.
Right, of course.
Like this is. You can't be like, hold on one second, everyone. Gallett's just gone to like evacuate his bowels. He'll be back in a second, right? So I was like, fuck, I got to be here for it, especially if there's other candidates. Anyway, I'm in there's a little pig pen room where basically they put people who aren't senators who have to wait. So there's all these different people in there and they're waiting and doing all this stuff. It's really interesting to see like all the different Senate motions coming and going and different people going out and doing stuff.
It is actually very interesting, Senate. Like if you attend the right moments, sometimes when there's something spicy on it.
Dude, the motion to surrender Varushkan territory in order to gain armies from the Thrall to fight the Jotun.
Yeah, that's spicy. That's real spicy.
There were literal tears, actual tears.
Yeah,
like it was. I wasn't even watching it. I was in the tiny little pig pen room or whatever, right? I didn't even watch it. All I could do was hear it.
That's a unique
and see the people coming out
very
afterwards.
Unique perspective,
But it was like fucking intense, like crazy intense. It was amazing. To kind of be a part of, and the people involved in the RP strong. And basically, Varushka's now like torn in half, right? With people that are for this and against this. Fucking crazy. Like I'd highly recommend going down and basically watching Senate, but it can be very boring. But also it can be very...
Yeah, it's one of those things where you need to find the flavour that's for you, and when the story comes along that you know a little bit about, it suddenly becomes a lot more interesting.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Context is really important, right? But you might gain context by listening.
Of course.
I don't know. It's Anyway, keep going through. What I really want to do is wish anyone that's running for Jarm good luck. So I keep going, oh, what are you here for? Are you here for Jarm? And they're like, no, I'm here for this. And they'll be like, what are you here for? And I'm like, chatting to a couple of people back there, and it's nice. And then they're like getting towards the end of like all the different motions, and then someone's like, the guy that runs like the martial ceremony is like, oh, have I forgotten any? And then someone yells out, Ambassador to Jarm, and he goes, oh, thank you, I forgot about that one. And I'm
literally, you almost got forgotten.
I'm like, fuck, no one gives a shit. No one gives an absolute shit about this. So they're like, right, any nominees? And my boy Riz, he fucking goes, Gela Ashbourne.
Right.
And I'm like, and everyone just turns and looks at me. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just, better step out now. And it's blazing hot. And my stomach's fucked. and I'm like, step out in front of everyone, and there's just like a room full of people, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all the senators. You've got
It's a lot, dude.
Skywise Fowl, my homeboy, the orc. He's sat on his chair. Like, this is it. This is it,
Yes.
right? Like, this
Yeah.
is what I've been waiting for so long. And there are no other candidates.
It was so good.
It's just me. And
But they still made you do it.
hey,
right?
they what was cool was they literally were like, okay, we're still going to ask you 3 questions. So there were 3 questions from the Senate. One of them was like, what are your plans for the future of them? And basically what I'd explained was like, I'm worried about the war to end all wars that will be in the future, and that like this is as much as a stick can get.
Yeah.
Like, now we need to carrot this up and have a joined up diplomatic thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
Went through all these questions, and then another guy asked a question, and then the last guy asked 3 questions, and they were like, who is Skywise Fowl? What do they do? And what is your relationship, or something like that? It was something like that. And then the guy was like, hey, that's 3 questions. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'll answer all 3. And literally I just went like, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. I hit all the notes. I was like, I've been working as the previous ambassador's proxy. I travel there regularly to trade. I am a mage.
Yeah.
You
know exactly who Skywise Fowl is.
Skywise Fowl is my friend, and I ask him for advice regularly on this sort of stuff. I attended the Friday meeting of the diplomatic service. Like, I'm like, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba-bam. I'm like so ready for everything.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, either for or against. And like the whole room just moved.
That was great.
And there was like the Dornish noble that I had talked to was front and center, and he was beaming, and all that. So many people were smiling at me. Like, it was just like really fucking cool. Like, everyone was so happy for me because I was clearly I was giving off like how much this meant to me, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like,
I think it's very interesting as well. You think about like no dissenters, so that's like
I don't know if there were dissenters.
Oh,
Like,
you don't know?
there was a lot of people moving around. I don't know, but there could have been a couple, but it seemed like an awful lot of people were standing in front of me.
A large positive majority is actually politically.
In fact, people laughed about it and were like, "Oh, it's it's past or whatever,"
Right,
you know.
yeah.
And then like I got sounds really corny, but it's like a fucking like 80s movie, big happy victory end. Like, everyone's hugging me, like the previous ambassadors hugging me, like all our senators, like Riz gave me a big hug, like fucking it was just a
it's like the end of a Rocky movie.
And then I then I go back and I like shake hands with Skywise Fowl as it's like, yes, did it, you know. And then he just hands me the diplomatic envoy to tell me all the stuff about Jarm, and just hands it to me, that piece of information.
Oh, right, so
and
now
I'm
you get to see it.
Yeah, and then I'm just like, now it's mine.
Yeah,
right,
of course it's yours.
It's mine.
Yeah.
And like I leave, even the Senate guard, like there's some good guys like Bam and those guys,
yeah.
And we hug it out, and like they're hugging me as I'm leaving, and it was just like one of those. It felt so good. And when I got back to the camp, and I was just like, who's got thumbs up and is the ambassador to Jarm, right?
Yes.
This guy. And it was like, everyone was just
so happy.
Fuck.
I think it was
Robert was so happy. Like, everyone was just ecstatically happy for me.
I think this was one of the things that like just the whole paths wanted, like more than I think anything else during the weekend. Like, I think everyone, like, I felt that way. It was the one thing I really hoped you'd get it.
People's reaction was like, just that it was so good. And like some people were like, you know, some of the senators were like, oh, I fucking did it. But then they were like, you deserved it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, fuck. Like, I know if you're listening to this and you're like, congratulations, Dave, you went and won an election against no one.
Yeah.
No one knew about it. It wasn't in the Winds of Fortune, and therefore, blah, blah.
It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter.
I felt so ready, and this might sound really weird, but winning it and not winning over someone else actually makes me feel really, really positive and good.
Yes, yeah.
Because, like, no one has to feel bad about it. I'm also like probably not ready for a proxy right now, and I think like asking someone to be your proxy immediately is a good thing. I probably need to be in the role just for a season just to figure that out. But yeah, I'm like absolutely stoked.
Yeah,
I can't, dude.
I think it'd be fun to like find your proxy,
dude.
right?
You bought me Ferrero Rochers.
Oh, this is happening. This
Ferrero
is happening.
Rocher, you're really spoiling us.
On the Thursday night, when we like we're prepping up, I just say to Dave at one point, "Oh, there's a present for you on your pillow, right?" And as he walks in, I start singing the Ferrero Rocher advert theme tune. And, like,
yeah, but you said
so
like
funny.
I wasn't allowed any Ferrero Rocher until I got the fucking.
I said you were.
By the way, I'm 100% serving Ferrero Rocher to the ambassadors.
I'll serve them for you.
Fuck yes.
I'll walk out with a silver plate.
I'm like, holy shit, and we can talk about this now because it's like, I'm like, oh my god, dude. I'm gonna go and have a sit down, diplomatic fucking exchange with a foreign dignitary, and I'm gonna represent the empire in a deeply inhospitable point in our lives, right? Like also having like a fast turnover of the ambassador. There's a whole bunch of stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I really genuinely would like to try and make
Improve
the situation
situations.
better.
Yeah.
Like I really want to make it better.
I think you might be the right man for the job.
I also think
good.
What was that? You came up with a really good analogy. Was it the First World War?
Yeah, I went like the First World War when you had the German and the Russian ambassadors when they knew that they couldn't stop what was going to happen.
Yeah.
They sat in silence and shook hands and walked out of the room. I think
they had a drink and then shook hands, didn't they? In silence. And it's that sort of thing. Like
it could happen like that,
dude. I really want to build up. Like I don't know. This is all very the future.
We have
but
to Ferrero Rocher the shit.
And I don't know who's going to be the ambassador or how they're going to play them. They might just be really antagonistic, or maybe it's antagonistic. But I can work on that. I don't know.
You'll have to react.
Fuck,
that's the point.
I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely excited. Like it means the world to me. So yeah.
I mean, I think like for us, I mean, bear in mind, it's the first hat, if you like. You're a hat wearer now.
Oh god, I haven't even thought about that.
Like that we have, right? Like
crazy.
It's quite a lot, and it's like
obviously there's a lot of pressure on this stuff. I don't know whether I might be shit. I might be.
You're
really
going to be
bad.
great, dude. You're going to be absolutely phenomenal. But like, I think that it's interesting. It's just it's a very like because for example, someone like Caro has loads of influence and loads like it's definitely pursuing a big part of game.
But I think there's something to be said about how everyone. What's nice about Empire is like there is a lot of different ways to approach the game.
Yes.
So instead of having like a small like 50-person LARP where it's a lot more bespoke experience, this is like wider, but it allows all this space for an awful lot of player-led stuff.
Yeah, the player-led stuff is phenomenal.
Yeah, and then that leads on to kind of like these like wonderful moments of like, dude, I'm the fucking ambassador to Jam.
Yeah.
Boom! Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
holy shit! Like, I know it's so ridiculous, but it like, and no one gives a fuck about Jam. Okay, no one gives a fuck about.
We do though.
I do. Geller Ashbourne gives a shit, right? Like, and like. I think it's really interesting, just the story that I'm going to go through with this, and like I'm fascinated. Like I really want to get involved. So
I think I think you have worked really hard for this as well. So it means it's just like it's great on a bunch of levels, IC and OC.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see going forward. Like I'm curious about how the game is going to develop.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what people will expect from me in that role. How badly this could potentially go.
I like the fact that I think basically getting Ambassador Charm has been, to a large degree, some of like a main characteristic of Gellert Ashbourne IC. And now he's got it. How does he actually...
I think the problem is now, it's more like, it's kind of one of those things where I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And like I've been caught. I've been desperate to be able to take the reins and be able to do what I want to do with this role and stuff like this. It's just like now it's going to be like, is it even possible?
Yes.
Right.
Well,
like,
you don't have control. Of the
I may well
situation,
be. I may
right?
well. My intentions might be good.
Yeah.
But I might be.
It may already be too late.
It may already be too late. I might be too much of an idealist. The bridges may have already been burnt. That there might not be any trust left there. Yeah. Like
you might be you might not be enough the other way, right? Like
I don't know.
It's very. But it's.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure as shit excited to find out.
Dude.
Right.
It's great.
So we'll see how it goes. Sorry, in fact, obviously that's deeply unrelated to most people's game, but fuck, I think getting out there, getting stuck in,
having a go,
learn.
I didn't get the thimble right. I don't know if we'd actually spoken about it earlier, but I didn't get it, and it's one of those things where it's just I'm not bummed about it because I think I'm going to go for it again. And if I don't, I might go for something else again another time.
I saw
yeah,
the kind of fire in me that when it's like, oh man, like I wanted that thing, I didn't get there, is like it's still like within you. What you end up wanting to do is like, it's not about the position. It's not about the hat. It's what you can do with the hat.
It's the principle. I think I believe in the principle of this kind of audit and accountability of it, right? Like Talis believes in it, right? So it's kind of like, it's something I think I'll have to sort of act on again, because it is like a big thing.
I think if you when you're RPing, you're like, do the thing, be the character, and like interact with people with those in mind, and then after a while people just know who the fuck you are. Like when I stood in front of all those senators and all the different people in the court, many of them knew me enough to be like, that guy gives a fuck about Jean, he's really tenacious about it, he will talk to you at the drop of a hat about it, and I've had interaction with him about this and this and this. So everyone knew that I was connected. And like even stuff like when I said, I was proxy to the previous ambassador. Yeah. And he's like, yep. Yeah. Like the guy. And then I'm like, Skywise Fowl's my homeboy. I didn't look back, but I assume he nodded, right? Yeah. Like, I didn't even look. Yeah. Don't need to look. Yeah. You know, I'm that confident, right? Like, I want this. I'm good at this. Yeah. Let's go. You know?
Yeah, it was good, man. It was just a great bit of game. And, it's just a great accomplishment as well.
I think
for you it's good,
dude.
Right?
We both had like a crazy roller coaster of a weekend.
Yes,
I was just for me at any rate, it was really nice to end on such a wonderful high.
Wonderful high,
like
for everyone as well.
Dude, the genuine joy. Cool.
It was an amazing event.
I can't wait for the next one. I have a player event, the longest walk thing. I need to remember whether that's before or after E2. So
I think it's before. I think it's coming up pretty soon.
Is it? Oh my god! Imagine if I get myself killed on a fucking player event.
You
after
better not.
Outrageous.
Outrageous display, sir.
Fucking hell! Like, let's not let that happen. It would be fucking hilarious, though, wouldn't it? Like, oh god. Let's not think about it.
Gellert can do anything, is what maybe he's in like.
No, if Van Ashbourne thought he could do anything, and now he's 6 feet under. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
man.
Right. Thank you all for listening to us ramble and warble on. Felt like a weird episode to record.
It was a weird one to record. I think we were actually thinking about it, that we had no idea what the length would be like, because there's a lot of points in this story, I think, that break up the whole thing, which is just like, and I chilled out.
We're still finding our feet after 2 years of not doing this specifically. We've done other stuff for the podcast, but these specifically, I think we've definitely had to kind of find a way. Big emotional event, but hey, like, genuinely, thank you so much for listening. And thank you to all of our patrons who actually help keep the lights on and actually help the not dent our wallets too badly. Basically.
And everybody who gets in touch with us and stuff, actually, like the Facebook group's really nice,
dude. We have.
Yeah,
I was talking about this with a friend recently, where I was like, I couldn't be happier, right? Like we're not like a big. We don't have like hundreds of thousands of downloads or anything. Yeah. We have like a really core group of really passionate supporters and listeners who
just
really
awesome people
who just
say
enjoy
really
listening
things.
To it. Yeah, and it's like, but I would take what we have now over anything else. It's the perfect sweet spot between creating something and having freedom to do that and having a really nice group of supporters compared to like no,
it's been an amazing experience, and like thank you so much to everybody, just the whole community for the last 2 odd years. It's just been, we've all sort of been going through all of it together, right?
Damn, son.
It's been a lot. So it was emotional to come back. It's emotional to come to do this again. And I can't wait for E2.
Before we start plubbing away at the end,
you should.
Strength to the Empire.
Strength to Navarre.